Support the Amigos podcast on Patreon or PayPal and receive cool perks and rad swag. Visit our page at everythingamiga.com/support.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to be talking about Beneath a Steel Sky.
A what sky?
Listen, man. Aaron, why do you think apocalyptic fiction is so popular?
I think basically we're all getting ready for it. And so it's...
Is this like looking forward to Christmas morning?
Well, I mean, you know, it's coming. We might as well see what's going to happen, you know. When I was a young fellow, in my early days of role-playing, there was a game called, it was a role-playing game from PSR. In fact, the Fallout franchise is based on it. And it was a post-apocalyptic game. It was fun. And I remember it was called Gamma World, what it was called. And you role-played in the future. And, you know, that from there to like stuff like Car Wars to...
Car Wars?
Car Wars is another futuristic.
That's not real.
Yeah, that's a real game. We suppose it was like a strategy role-playing game you used to be able to play. You got your car souped up, you had a race to kill everybody.
Like a demolition derby.
Well, sorta, yeah, kinda. It's more like Interstate 76.
That's a gas station, isn't it?
That's a game. That was an old PC game.
What was that place that's over there where the Bridge Street Bistro is now? Didn't that used to be a 76?
There was one.
Yeah.
That I think they're gone. You know, it's something fascinating about being or existing or at least looking into a dystopian or post-apocalyptic world. And I think people enjoy drawing parallels between what's happening there and what's happening currently. I don't know if they enjoy that, but I mean, it's inevitable that you would. I don't think this game's particular world is so odd that I don't necessarily see any direct comparisons. But in stuff like movies and TV, me and Teresa watched this show called The Last Man on Earth. It was on Fox a couple years ago. You ever heard of that one? And the premise was this guy's the last man on Earth, and we watched to see what that'd be like.
Did he end up breaking his glasses at the end?
No.
And he
what ended up happening was he wasn't the last man on Earth. There was a whole flock of people because this is a TV show, and it got lame. There's another great movie from Australia called The Quiet Earth. You ever seen that?
Is it like The Good Earth? Pearl S. Buck?
It's nothing like that. And in this particular movie, something happens. Everyone's dead. This guy slowly goes mad. So I like that kind of stuff. You get
what about that Will Smith movie?
Well,
where he was the last man.
The novel that's based on was tremendous. That Will Smith movie is garbage.
But he had his dog with him.
Will Smith, and I'm sure I've mentioned this. He enjoys making movies just to make me angry.
He had to kill his dog.
Oh, listen, I don't care about his stupid dog.
His dog was turning into a zombie.
Listen. I want a written apology from Will Smith. That's what I want for all the trouble he's caused me. Just for Wild Wild West, he should apologize.
It's a wonderful film.
It's horrible. You're just trying to yank my chain.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, there is an interesting fascination with the post-apocalyptic
You know what
stuff.
I think?
What?
Lazy.
What do you mean?
It's the easiest thing in the world to write a post-apocalyptic novel, film, or TV show. Everything's horrible, yet still somehow society manages to hang on by a thread. This is what happens. I mean, it's. I can understand in the 60s when it was the atomic age, people feared the bomb and stuff. Okay, this is the birth of this genre. It's something new. In the past, the future was always bright, and now the future is not so bright. But it's the same story retold time and again, over and over again. But people love it. They can't get enough of it, so people keep writing. They keep making movies because people love this stuff.
I have to say, I love it. I think it's very interesting. But you're right. It is a real easy path. I mean, you can put zombies there. You can put cannibals there.
Well, that's another thing.
You can put robots
in there. You can put whatever you
want
want there. It's very, very easy.
Yeah.
You and I could write a post-apocalyptic scrcreenplay right here on the show in real time.
It would, perhaps.
It would be better than most of the things that are out there.
It'd be horribly bad. But, I dig that stuff. I mean, I'll go see it. Hey, I love Zombieland is another one of those I like, and Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price was really good. There have been plenty of those, and some are garbage, and plenty of B movies too, because it's the also cheap way to make a film. Just drive out to the desert, put up a couple of shacks, you're done.
Absolutely.
You know,
just look at Mad Max. That's what they did.
Mad Max, perfect example.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good point.
So let's talk about this week, Aaron. What's been going on in the world of Amiga news?
All right, what do you got?
Okay, well, we got a couple stories this week. It hasn't been the biggest week in the world, but we do have a new update for Amiga Forever that's just been released. Now, as you know, frequent listeners of the show, I don't use Amiga Forever very much, but Aaron, you do use Amiga Forever quite a bit, and you were the mastermind behind our Amiga Forever for Dummies video, which is one of our most popular videos of all time.
Too bad it's so blurry. That was before we really had figured out what we were doing. Catch-wise. You know, I saw that this had popped, and I'd say I've not got to look at the new version yet. I was too busy fooling with the actual Amiga this week, but I'm looking forward to this. I will say I do also like their C64 package, which I believe that one get updated as well.
Yes, there's a new C64 Forever too.
You know, Colando's always been nice to us. Mm-hmm. I will say they have supported us.
And Mike's a heck of a nice guy.
Yeah, both met Mike personally. Mm-hmm. Despite what the political side of things, I think this is a pretty. I think it's a pretty tight package. We've always had trouble. In fact, I talked to Lafarius about this. We've always had trouble capturing footage from. It's always been sort of a hassle, hasn't it? Now you gave this a whirl, didn't you? Did you try capturing footage with the new version?
Well, yeah, I had no problems, but what I had to do was I had to use display capture in OBS, and now we're going to go into inside baseball here with how Open Broadcaster software works. But there is a way to do it, and it's not very difficult.
Okay, so, but I mean, I guess my question is, has it improved over the last version, or did it ever?
I never used it. I'm an FSUAE man.
There you go.
Born and bred.
Well, there you go. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking over here without going too deep into what they've done to it. But there was room for improvement.
A lot of the things that they did, I can give you just a quick rundown.
Great.
There's a lot of new keyboard overlays. You can actually pop up a keyboard of various sizes at any time and kind of have it hover there. And then there's new CD drive controls for the CD TV, so you can get a better pause play button going on there. Of course, the CD TV did ship with a controller too, didn't it? I'm pretty sure it did.
It had a remote control.
Okay.
But I don't know if it had.
You don't have it at like a D-pad.
I think it had a remote. I think it had a remote D-pad, but I don't remember if it came with it or not. Mm-hmm. You know, boy, I'd like to have one of those. But I mean, they're pointless. They're utterly pointless.
Yeah, I mean, you think the CD32 is a useless piece of garbage?
I don't think that. I think that's more useful now than it's ever been. But yeah, I'll look into that more and report back. By the time next week, I'll have a better grasp of the new stuff.
This is a thing that just popped up on my Facebook feed this evening. If you are over in the Australia country, there is an Amiga get-together called Amiga Retro Brisbane.
Oh, man, yeah.
Okay, this is the ARB Balimba meetup.
Check out the guy's name.
Mark G. Falconer.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
Falconer.
Awesome. That's awesome. So there's a couple people that are signed up for this thing already. And if you want to attend, make sure you go on over to this Facebook page that you see on the screen before you. And if you're listening in audio, just search for ARB Balimba Meetup. All you down under, convene on Brisbane.
Yeah, somebody, if any of our buddies go down, shoot some pictures at least for us and stick up there. It'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, I hate to say it, but that's all the news I've got this week. It was sort of a quiet week in the world of the Amiga.
Hey, it happens. Summer is winding down, and I suspect that the big news will be forthcoming in the next month or two. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Aaron, let's talk about this week's Dreamcatcher article.
Now, I gotta say, this is another one that I have some knowledge on, which is he has done an article here on the video game stylings and the movie stylings of Howard the Duck. Now, have you ever seen this film?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Now I was afraid of Howard the Duck as a child.
You should be. He was a weird-looking, bizarre creature.
This is another one of those examples, like we were talking about the Dark Crystal on Discord. You go in with a certain expectation of your animatronic beast being sort of a fun-loving, carefree dude. And Howard the Duck is sort of a hard-boiled egg, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, I see what you did there. Now, have you ever read the comic? that this
I
is
didn't know
based
there was a
on.
comic.
Marvel had a Howard the Duck comic for a long time, and it was a weird underground hit.
Okay,
And
is it like a Harry Crumb type thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was just a bizarre. It's a very unusual.
Or is it
hard to
George Crumb?
Hard, no,
Who's Harry? That's that candy movie, right?
Crumb is the guy that does all the kind of
Weird comic stuff,
comics.
yeah.
This was an offbeat, sort of counterculture humored comic book starring this alien duck. All right, now. How this got a movie made is baffling, and a movie that predates some of the huge superhero movies like your Spider-Mans and stuff. And think about it, Howard the Duck is getting a movie. I remember when I heard this, I couldn't believe it because no one I knew read this comic, and I would occasionally, and Howard the Duck would pop up in other comics too.
Yeah,
he existed within the continuity of Marvel.
It was the MCU from the 80s.
Yeah, he was. He would come around and he would have team ups and stuff, but he was just kind of this wisecracking, cigar smoking idiot character. And so, somewhat over there, and of all places, like you got Lucas and that gang are.
This was like a Spielberg, Lucas, it was all the big names.
It was a big.
I think Ron Howard was there.
It was a big
the
movie.
Fonz.
And I read, it's funny, Dreamcatcher mentions that Lucas had hoped that the proceeds of this movie would fund his ranch being built. Didn't happen. He also goes into the fact that that the movie was $37 million to make, and it made $38 million. And you know, after all the other extra crap that goes into it, they lost a bundle.
I will say this was probably the best animatronics in a movie until the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
That is funny. He actually looked, it looked creepy.
Yeah. But it looked better than your Showbiz Pizza type.
It looked better than like midget in suit.
Yes.
You know, like that sort of thing, but not much better.
Like Willow.
Now, it did have Leah Thompson coming off of her role in Back to the Future. I always thought she was super cutie, and that was probably the highlight of this film, was her being just looking hot and being in it. But that's when you pay full price for that ticket. I don't know if that's going to cut it.
Now, did you see this in the theater?
Oh God, no,
no,
absolutely not. Someone gave me a copy of a videotape, and on one bored night, I sat down and watched this. I was like, my God, this is the worst, and it gets real weird.
There's some interspecies
romance.
Yeah,
let's go there.
Yeah,
but of course that he was the same way in the comics. But anyway, Dreamcatcher, I never could have fathomed that they would have made home release games off this movie. But Dreamcatcher, and this has got to be right up his alley. If you picked an article for the DK to put down, here it is. And so he goes into the offerings here after he recounts what's in the movie.
I think there was a song, like I want to say the end credits, there was a song called Howard
the Duck.
Right.
He's about to get plucked. I remember the lyrics of some of them. Yeah, it's crap.
Yeah.
And who knows who they got to sing this. This has got to be Tim Robbins' worst film. He's been in all these good movies.
Who's Tim Robbins?
Timothy Robbins. That's his name right there, isn't it? Tim Robbins.
Oh. What else was he in?
He was in Shawshank Redemption. Hudsucker No, nothing. Never heard of him.
Hudsucker. Sounds like a horror film.
He was in Bull Durham.
I want to see that. I've never seen it, but I want to see it. I want to see it.
My God.
I love baseball movies.
Baseball fan?
I know. It's supposed to be a good Christmas film.
He was in Jacob's Ladder. He's been in a ton of good movies, but this was eerily. He must have been high as a kite. And apparently, a lot of actresses looked to get into this movie before they picked. So which is
if you look at the names behind it, Spielberg, Lucas.
Well,
I mean, they thought it was going to be the next Star Wars.
And he even goes into who won the Razzies in this. The Razzies, the worst film awards, and this was, I think it got 7 nominations and won 4. So yeah, it was an absolute disaster. So you can imagine how good the games are. I'll just leave it at that. But another good article by DK. I suggest you check this out, especially if you're either into Howard the Duck or I don't know. Maybe just curious.
Howard curious.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about if you were going to rank your animated ducks? Who's at the top of the list?
He's at the bottom. I can tell you that right now. Well, it's a tough race because there's a couple you got obviously Donald Duck and his ilk. Scrooge McDuck.
Well, I would rank those as different.
Right, but I'm saying that Disney guys. Then you got Daffy Duck out there. He's awful good.
So I'm asking you to.
I guess you'd have to. That's a tough choice. I have to think about that. I think I've seen more Donald Duck's. I think Daffy Duck's funny. It's funnier than Donald, but Donald's pretty funny too. I'd say it's a tie for first. I'm going to cop out, and then everyone else is bring up the
Last.
rear. Yeah, because I never watched DuckTales or that crap.
Hey, DuckTales is great.
Listen, I didn't watch it, man. Duckula, there's another one I didn't rank.
Yeah.
I didn't like that show either, to be honest with you.
You don't like a lot of British stuff, so I don't.
I do like a lot of British stuff, but I didn't like Duckula. I'm more of a Danger Mouse guy myself, whom I also didn't like. But I liked it more than Duckula. Sorry. Yeah, Donald. That's what makes Donald. Donald has a temperament that I enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, I lived a very similar person to Donald.
You are just
many
constantly.
years.
You're just babbling incoherently at a loud volume.
Not me. I said I lived with someone that's a lot like Donald.
Oh, okay.
The temperament of Donald. So there you go. What about you? Who do you rank up there?
Well,
Duck-wise.
I'm gonna go with probably with the. I really like Scrooge McDuck. I think he's a cool character.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's diving into his money. I like the way he dresses. He's snazzy. I also like Glumgold, who is that's Scrooge McDuck's arch nemesis.
So we're gonna go deep into the DuckTales.
Well, I'm ranking
roster
them,
here.
I'm ranking them in order.
God,
I don't
over Daffy. You're gonna rank these people?
Yeah, I put both those over Daffy, but then
that's an age thing.
I put Daffy third. What are you talking about? These comics are as old as the hills.
Right, but DuckTales is it?
DuckTales was a comic for years and years and years before.
Did you read the comic?
No, but that's beside the point.
Okay, I'm saying for you, I think it's generational. I grew up watching Daffy Duck. He was funny. I didn't see that much of Scrooge. Scrooge only appeared on occasionally in like a Disney short or something, very rarely.
Yeah.
You know, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. I saw more of them, but mostly Donald. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah, I put Donald third, or I put Daffy third.
Behind who?
Okay.
Who was the second guy?
Scrooge.
Yeah.
Glumgold.
You're telling me that that Daffy ranks behind a guy I've never heard of?
Glumgold is Scottish. Okay.
Is that Scrooge McDuck's like cousin?
It's his cousin.
I knew it.
Yep. Okay.
How original.
Then you've got Daffy third, Donald fourth. Donald's no good. He's no good.
No. Donald's great. You just ranked, then you say you ranked him third of those? Fourth?
No, fourth. He's last.
Why do you hate him?
Because he's not.
Have you ever seen that bit where Donald tries to open that folding beach chair? That's comedy gold. No?
No.
How about the one where he's got the bear gets in the house on Halloween? A gorilla, excuse me. It's a gorilla that gets in the house.
I'm really looking forward to the launch of Disney Plus so I can catch up on all these classic shorts. Honestly, I haven't seen anything. The thing I remember are I like all the goofy shorts where it's like how to ski and stuff like that.
Those are good.
Yeah.
You know, the problem is, here's the problem with this Disney Plus thing. It's more money for Disney. These guys already own everything. They've bought every conceivable thing. You know, now we got to give them more money.
Why not? Just hand it to them.
I don't care that much about old Disney properties. I can watch whatever I want. But Teresa and Luke want it, so
I want it too.
I'll be getting it. I'll be paying Disney more money.
Maybe they're going to buy the WWE. They rolled the network into that.
I wouldn't take that loss. That's for darn sure.
Let's talk about, speaking of taking a loss, let's talk about this week's game.
Speaking of loss, this thing actually did quite well. Thank you very much. I looked up the numbers.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought this would lose money hand over fist.
No, incorrect, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely
well, you'll have
wrong.
to fill me in.
Absolutely wrong. So, Beneath the Steel Sky, you'd heard of this one before this week, buddy?
I have.
Had you played this one before this week?
In fact, it's kind of funny. I'd heard of it, but really I hadn't, because anytime you said Beneath the Steel Sky, I thought you were talking about a different game called Alternate Reality: The City.
Nope. I never heard of that.
That got the Atari 8-bit port.
Well, so this could never have made it on the 8-bits, I'm afraid.
No.
So Beneath the Steel Sky, I had played this one, by the way. Released in '94. Now this one you had two flavors of this on the Amiga. You had the ECS OCS disc version. Then you had the CD32 CD version. Now, if you were going the disc route, 15 flopperoos here. 15 of those.
That's got to be the record. I think that's more than Monkey Island 2.
That's a lot. 15 discs. And the funny thing is, I got about a third of the way maybe not that far, almost a third of the way through the game this week. which is further than I've ever been. I will say that. I was proud of myself, actually, because, again, these aren't my bag. And I watched, I was like, I got to see how this thing ends. I've been waiting for years to see what the heck happened. So I went ahead and watched the whole run of the game, someone playing it. And it went about 5.5 hours, I think, to play. And
it's less than that.
No, this is someone that knew exactly what to do.
The playthrough we're watching right now is 2.5 hours.
Well, the one I watched was
he must have been dawdling around.
Yeah, maybe he did. So, but anyway, I guess what I'm saying is, for that amount of time, there didn't seem to be a whole lot of stuff going on in terms of like new places to go. I mean, there's some, obviously, but it's not like you're hopping planets or 15 discs is a lot. I'm assuming it's all artwork.
Yeah.
Almost all of it's artwork. So now this came out from an outfit called Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I didn't even know who this was, to be honest with you. I'd forgotten who developed this, but I'm sure you remember some of these titles, including King's Quest 6, Air Today, Gone Tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Have you played that one, the 6th one?
Yeah.
Is that the one that was the lady worked on? Was that one?
Well, Roberta Williams did.
No, I mean the lady. Oh, yes, you're not on ARG. When we did Gabriel Knight, the lady that did that one had worked on one of the King's Quest. I think it may have been that one. Also, Revolution on the Amiga was responsible for Lure of the Temptress, which I've not ever played that.
Revolution, they did a lot of work for Sierra. They ported a lot of those games to non-computer systems. In fact, there was a port of King's Quest V for the Nintendo, for the regular Nintendo.
Oh, yeah?
And Revolution did that.
This also got a release on DOS, which I did remember that. And I've actually, a couple years ago, Good Old Games gave away that. I've actually got the DOS version on the hard drive.
This was one of the early issues of Retro Gamer. They gave this away on the cover disc. This is back when Retro Gamer had cover discs.
Oh, really? They gave it away.
And they gave it away.
What a deal, eh? This also got a release on the iOS platform in 2009. It's kind of neat. It makes sense, doesn't it? Now, I'm not going to go over everyone that worked on this because it was a ton of people. This
is really we talk about this. There was a tipping point in which you couldn't get by anymore being a 2 or 3 man or 3 person development team.
Yeah.
You're starting to employ tons and tons of people on these releases.
Now, the main 2 guys behind this particular title were a fellow named Charles Cecil and comic book artist Dave Gibbons. Now, him I knew because he worked on the Watchmen miniseries, which is one of the all-time classic comic book miniseries. Of course, made into the film and apparently has now been made into a series.
Really?
Which I haven't watched. I believe it's on HBO.
Okay.
And I don't know how or what that's all about. And I'm sure that it is done without the blessing of the Watchmen
Alan
folks.
White and
Alan who? No, his name is what is his name? It's Alan Moore.
Alan Moore.
He loves hate and hates everything
Who's
else.
the other guy? Maybe the other guy's last name was White. I want to say, or maybe Alan White's a different guy. Maybe he was the keyboardist in Yes. For a while.
I don't know. I don't know where you're going there. So. That's a pretty heavy-duty player to bring in to help along with this game, and so those 2 guys were the big players behind this title. So, what is this title? It's a point-and-click adventure game, my favorite, as you know, and set in sort of a bizarre, I guess we'll call it a futuristic. I don't know if it's ever made clear that it's Earth, or I don't remember ever reading if it was actually.
Oh, I don't think that they ever come out and say this is Earth.
Yeah.
But I think that you're supposed to sort of infer that this is an Earth-like planet.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. So you play a fellow who has grown up in a place called the Gap.
That's true. Tara K did. We have to interrupt the show because the comic that comes with this book. Are you going to talk about the comic that comes with this book? This book came with a comic book.
Yeah, a comic. It's like a couple pages.
This game came with a comic book, and it does set the game in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they're.
It's funny because I looked over the comic and I don't even remember reading that.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at a picture of it. The comic, I think I had was it 2 pages of comic book that came with it?
I don't know how many.
I would love to have this boxed. But we'll get into why later. That it won't ever happen. It's unlike last week's game where I went ahead and bought it. I'm not going to be doing that to this one. So anyway, you play the role of a guy named Rob Foster, who basically grew up in this area outside of the cities called The Gap.
The Gap.
And
it's like that
the
store
woods.
in the mall. I mean, the woods.
It's exactly like the store in the mall. And so, in this land, in this era, basically, cities have become almost like competing corporations. Stop me when this doesn't make any sense to you.
I was going to say it's like Shadowrun or every other thing that's like this.
And basically, all the people that inhabit the city are basically working for whatever they're making or whatever they're doing. And
I don't know what that sentence means.
I mean, like the city is a producer of goods, like a corporation, like a big corporation.
So it's like a mine town, like a coal town.
Sorta, yeah. And so you've got a competing town, the next town over, and you're competing with them in some marketplace with their product, basically. Does that make any sense to you? And so the government of the town is pressing you and pressing everyone there to, produce effectively. So that's what they do. Everybody has a job. So, and the comic book explains this. So Robert Foster, who lives in the Gap, people come to the Gap with his a family out there, kill them all, throw him in a chopper, and they're taking him back to this town. And as they're coming back, the chopper blows up basically, or gets something happens to the chopper, gets disabled, and it crashes in the middle of town. And when you start the game, you are on the run from the authorities, and you start the game in this factory and try to figure out what to do, and that's how the game starts. Now, I can tell you when I started this game years ago, I remember, hand to God, I remember downloading 15 discs of this bad boy back in the day. No easy task. And I remember loading up the first disc and watching the intro. And the intro is sort of it starts off with this really artfully done shot of this future city. And it's just what you would expect.
It looks like every future city that's ever been painted.
And it looked good. It looked really good. And your little animated chopper goes down, and then the next scene is you inside of a factory listening to a guard talk to a factory worker about this fugitive that's on the loose, and you're hiding up in like this
every
platform.
outhouse, penthouse, and hen house.
Yeah.
And
so your job, at least early on, is just to not get captured, to avoid the authorities. And so you've got to use your point and click skills to try to find things to help you along on this mission. I mean, it's pretty standard fare, isn't it, for this sort of...
It's exactly what you'd expect.
So, again, you having never ever played this before, what did you think initially with the graphics, the presentation, and the interface?
Well, you got to think about when was this game made. This is a game from '94.
Yeah.
Okay. Things had gotten pretty good by this point. Graphics were looking pretty good. And if we're talking about sprite pixel art type games, we'd almost reached sort of the zenith. We were at the pinnacle. Everything was detailed. Everything looked great. If you look at the Sierra games from this time period, LucasArts games from this time period, they all look sort of the same. So I wasn't overly wowed by the graphics. I mean, they look comparable to other releases from the day. I'm not saying they look bad. I'm just saying that it wasn't like these guys were pushing the envelope. They look good. They look good. The very first puzzle in this game, you have to locate an iron rod. Mm-hmm. The iron rod is exactly the same color as all the other junk that's in the room that you're in. So you're immediately into pixel hunt mode. Okay? I searched around for this thing forever and had to use a walkthrough for the first puzzle, the very first puzzle, because I didn't know what to do. I was, what I started to do, I just grabbed my mouse and I was going whoop, whoop, back and forth, and I couldn't find it. I missed it on my first go through. Then I looked at the walkthrough and I was like, locate the iron rod, and immediately I was turned off. Okay. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the games that don't identify what you need. They hide it and they make you mouse over camouflage sections in the room to tell you what it is. So already, right out of the gate, I didn't like this game. However, there were things that happened later on that started to grow on me a little bit. But anyway, continue.
It's funny, but first of all, you mentioned that this could have been a LucasArts game. The font, the way the text appears. It looks straight out of it's just like a Monkey Island.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. It's almost like they were. I mean, I don't like to say it's exactly there. Like, I guess they're just like, okay, here's what these games have text.
Well, they took what the biggest best-selling games were doing, and they applied it to their story.
Now, I will say, I did play this, like I said, when it came out. And I will say, after downloading 15 discs, I don't think I ever got off disc 2 back in the day. But I didn't remember anything about it. And I was able to get past the early part of this game pretty easy. I didn't have any trouble finding the rod.
Well, like, okay, for example, there's another puzzle, like one of the puzzles that happens just a couple minutes later. You have to race the technician into the room and do something before he gets there.
I hate that.
Yeah. And again,
I hated that, yeah.
you know, I hate, like, pick what genre you want to be. Do you want to be an action game? Okay. Do you want to be a thinking game? Whenever
that's the spot right there we're actually looking at.
Yeah. I hate that.
Yes.
And this is what a lot of these later adventure games, especially the Sierra games, made you do. They incorporated timing. And, you know, when I'm thinking about a choice, I want to think about it. And this, it's frustrating. And so at that point, that's when I started using the walkthrough.
That puzzle angered me. And and what really made me mad, not to give away all the secrets, but I guess this is early in the game. You have what he's talking about is there's a handyman. You have to get into his cupboard. And inside the cupboard is a spanner and a sandwich. And you have to go off one screen. And keep in mind, I was playing this on disc, okay, effectively. And so I had to go off the screen, walk to a point where you would activate this alarm that would make the handyman go over there. Then you have to run back to the other screen and get the sandwich or get the spanner. And so I had to try this like 5 or 6 times or more. And every time just wait and wait and wait. I'm like, oh my God. And so finally I got the spanner and I didn't even bother getting the sandwich. Well, then I found out later you need the sandwich.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man.
Yeah, and you can't it's not like you can just walk back to it and get it. But I mean,
this is a crime that almost all these games are sort of guilty of this kind of stuff.
It's the Sierra games. It's not, that's the thing that the LucasArts games did right, is they never made a puzzle impossible to solve.
That said, and that was, I would say that particular point, that was the most annoying thing I came across. I will say that was by far, and because and the thing is, I don't even mind the puzzle, but you have to make it that close. Mm-hmm. You can give the guy, because there are other points in the game where you're waiting for stuff to happen, and they're darn sure not in a hurry when that stuff happens. You're waiting for some guy to come down an elevator or something. It could take a couple minutes. You know, why can't we give me a minute here to get this stuff? Don't make me rush that quick.
Right.
So anyway, this is your typical game where you point to where you want your guy to go. The interface on this is, I will say, this is my kind of interface. It's not there. I mean, you literally don't see any interface unless you move your mouse up to your inventory, which is fine by me. That's what I like. So right there you get marks because you get a nice full screen with beautiful art. And what they've done is they've taken this beautiful art and they've put in some animated elements. It's just pretty standard stuff, but they do a good job. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're in a room with like a machine room, there'll be a machine movement and maybe there'll be some movement on the computer screens or something like that. Eventually you've got a little robot that rolls around with you that he'll just kind of screw around the background when you're doing stuff. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have any problem with that. Like I said, graphically, top shelf. I think this is about one of the prettiest games I've seen on the Amiga. I listened to the voice CD. I didn't play the CD32 version, but I did watch some of the playthrough with the CD32 version on, and I definitely preferred it without the voices. I will say that I'm assuming you played that version.
I played the version without the voices, but I watched the majority of the playthrough with the voices.
What did you think of the voices?
I'll tell you what. Compared to the sort of random capitalization of words in the dialogue, I'll take the voices any day. Not to mention the version that I played without the voices had no background music. And you know these games, this game without background music, in the first room that you're in, you remember the first room you're in?
Yeah.
It's got that crusher, in there.
Oh yeah,
and
all you hear. Yeah.
So when you play the CD32 version, you actually get background music. And the music's quite good. I enjoyed the music. I think that this game is what this game is two competing visions. You've got this dystopian, depressing, corporate-driven future world, and you've got kind of silly mechanics. You've got your wacky robot sidekick.
Yeah.
And you've got your and you've got kind of funny, punny dialogue.
Yes. They very again sort of a playoff on the Monkey Island stuff.
Yeah.
What kind of wacky?
To me,
these games also have a lot of wacky dialogue. It's something we see over and over.
Yeah. To me, that's a good thing. I think there's a lot of people that wish this game was more serious, that wish it was, more gritty. But to me, this is almost like if Terry Gilliam made a point-and-click adventure game. Have you ever seen Brazil?
Long ago.
Okay.
Long ago.
This really reminded me a lot of Brazil. Of course, I love Terry Gilliam. It's so ultra depressing, the setting and everything, but the events that happen in this game are just so weird and wacky. It's charming. I found it to be charming. That said, once I got to that point where I couldn't figure out that timed-based thing, I stopped playing the game and just watched playthroughs.
Oh, you quit? That's where you quit?
That's where I quit.
So that's pretty early.
I enjoyed watching this game, and the puzzles didn't seem like they were that difficult. I mean, there were no, at least that I could see as I was watching the player run through the puzzles, nothing seemed too overly esoteric. And I really enjoyed like you said, you don't go to a lot of different planets or stuff, but there are
any.
Right, but there are a lot of different settings. There are a lot of different.
There's different areas of the building and stuff.
And so I don't think that all of the 12 discs were just graphics or whatever. I think that there is a good amount of content here. And I think that the cast of characters that you meet are all kind of colorful. It's Monkey Island-ish in that way. And your robot sidekick is always quipping, and saying different things at the end of the game. Did you watch the full thing? So your robot.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Your robot, it gets injected into some sort of a gelatinous human form that allows you to complete the game. What I thought was funny, I watched another YouTuber review this, and I should have written down her name because I wanted to quote her. But at the end of the game, it says, "I look like Ken." The Joey, the robot. He says, "I look like." Your player gives him the name Ken, and he says, "Are there any Kens that I can emulate?" And he's like, "I don't know. Ken's kind of a loser name." And she thought it was because Ken Williams was one of the Sierra guys, and it was sort of a jab at the competition. But it turns out that wasn't true. But I thought, man, that would be an ice burn if it was.
I disagree with some of what you said. I actually do wish this was more serious.
Really?
I think there's a really interesting game here and an interesting story, and this game is. I mean, you did call it right. It's like two games, but. When you're putting a game like Monkey Island, that can be wacky. The whole game is wacky. This game, early on, the guy that's pursuing you gets chopped in half. Okay, I mean, in a bloody pulp. You find another girl that you're working with stuffed in a locker until she's been irradiated. All right, so it's not like that ain't funny. that's not good at all. What annoys me is the funny things that are in it are pretty funny. So it's not like all the humor misses. It's just I'd rather not have the humor. Just get that out. I want a gritty. And listen,
play that game where your profile takes up half the space on the screen.
Yes,
that's your gritty dystopian future.
I mean, this could be that. Hey, listen.
And it would be horrible.
I love Neuromancers, and even Neuromancer, the game does the exact same thing.
God, that game is dry as the desert.
It's wacky. It does wacky stuff that I don't like. I want a serious game. I don't mind an occasional. Robot quip now and again, but I would like.
Who doesn't?
There's all these long dialogue trees with these wacky characters.
It's a point-and-click adventure.
I know. I would like to have something more adult, to be honest with you, and less silly. I guess. I mean, I love silly. I love it. I'm Mr. Wacky, but this I would like to have had just the seriousness because. What he's doing is pretty serious. I mean, these guys want to kill him, and when you get further into the plot, I don't want to give away the total ending, but I mean, it gets really freaking serious. I mean, there's murder, there's a lot of stuff that was hidden to this guy. He finds out about his parents. He finds out about his past. And it gets dark and weird.
And the music also sort of belies that too. And again, I like the contrast, but I understand why you wouldn't. But the music is there's nothing that sounds like your sort of dystopian kind of drone-ish. I mean, everything is.
Yeah, the music didn't do it.
I mean, it sounds like Scott Joplin.
When I watched the CD version, I was like, this is no good. I don't like the music. Something else, I mean, okay, here's all this wacky stuff. You got these wacky characters, and then you'll get these long shots of these beautifully rendered factories. They're dirty, they're interesting looking, or these overviews of the city. That city's not wacky. That's a weird dystopian city. There's a lot of bad news going on down there. It's not funny at all.
Brazil.
And it's not.
You're describing the movie.
But it's not that I didn't get the humor.
Mm-hmm.
It's that I didn't need the humor. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm not the only person that
sure,
has said,
absolutely. It's a valid opinion.
Just to get back to the voices for a minute, I read that they hired the actors from the Royal Shakespeare Company to do the voice acting. Did you hear that?
Well, I heard that, and then midway through, they hired a whole new crew because apparently the stage actors were being overly dramatic.
To be fair, they spent 2 days and recorded 5,000 lines of dialogue. Now, listen, that is too much. Can you set aside a week? Mm-hmm. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And then they had to go hire more guys. I also read that Gibbons, among others, used a multitude of different things to work on this with. They used a Macintosh. They used deluxe paint. They used a bunch of different stuff. It's funny. I listened to an old episode of Retro Hour where they interviewed a guy, and he just so happened to have been one of the animators on this game.
Really? Wow.
And it's funny. He's an astrophysicist. Ironic. I wish I could remember his name, but he ended up getting the job because the revolution was in his town. So he knew a guy. It's like, go down there and bring your
astrophysicist
resume,
buddy.
and so they hired him. And he drew. In fact, I think he said, as I recall, he said that he was responsible for drawing a lot of the plumes of steam and smoke that come out of the pipes, which you see that quite often in the game. The puzzles, I did not find them very difficult early on, but they got difficult. I mean, and even the one that we were complaining about, I could get past it eventually, but I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It felt out of place. And there were a couple of those timing based. I mean, even there's one where a robot goes and picks up this barrel, and you have to go down this elevator. And you still have to time it right. Not everything. And what makes this game annoying is when you mistime the stuff, it takes forever to get it to go back again. It's just a lot of redundancy when you try to make this stuff work. And it's not like, in a playthrough, a guy just goes, bloop, and he does it the first time. But when you don't know what you're doing, which I didn't, it got old. Mm-hmm. Stuff would happen. And there were stuff that you could never possibly guess. It drove me bananas. And again, this is another of those games, they're all the same, where the puzzles are sort of nonsensical. You're telling me that I had to steal a sandwich 20 minutes into the game to give a guy an hour and a half into the game? I mean, how the heck are you going to know that?
Right.
That's weird.
Well, you have to take everything in these games.
That's my problem with these games in general. I know they're fun, and people. It's really the game is just like it's just being a jerk. It's just a jerk thing to do to somebody. To be like, oh man, you didn't get that sandwich.
Right.
Well, you lose. It's like, wait a minute, man, come on, that was an hour and a half ago. And you can't go back sometimes. I noticed further on in the game. Oh, I'll tell you something else that caught me was there was a wire you were supposed to repair. Okay. And much like you, I didn't even know it because there's some of the things, and this is another thing we see all the time is. Some of the things blend in the background. You don't know that there's something clickable. Now, I read that in newer releases of this, that stuff gets sort of highlighted. So that probably that sort of takes away some of the game, I guess.
Not for me. It would make me play the game.
All that said, when you boil this game down, the story is quite remarkably interesting. I thought it was a real interesting story.
It was a great story.
The world they built here was pretty interesting, And this guy's personal story is it's something I didn't see coming. I will say that when I ended up watching the end of it. So I can't say I don't like it. I do like it, but it's not necessarily my cup of tea. would I load this up again and play it? I might just advance a little further. But I mean, of course, now I've seen how it ends, so it's kind of pointless. But in these games, it's not known for the replayability.
No.
I don't remember seeing any sort of options or anything. I think it just pretty much, you just play it.
Well, it's a narrative experience.
Right, but I mean, I didn't see where you can make your guy. I don't know if there's any shortcuts to make your guy move across the thing quicker or speed up the way they move.
Oh no, that's part of the thrill is watching your guy shamble across the screen.
Part of it. I mean, he's not super shambly, but it's
like The Living Dead, man.
It takes a while. You mentioned this, I think, and I'll mention it again. In 2011, they released an enhanced soundtrack for this game, and they also released the game, this is where I got it on Good Old Games for Free. So if you want the PC version of this, you can go get it.
I did check out the PC version.
It's pretty close.
It's not.
The version I've got, it's almost exactly the same.
I'm talking graphically. 94. We've talked about this before, was really the tipping point where you started to see simultaneous releases for the Amiga and the PC.
Oh, you're saying graphically?
Yeah, graphically,
yeah.
the PC had jumped ahead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is sort of like Syndicate.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, the Amiga game was there, but I mean, when you've just got it's a simple logic. We can display more colors. We've got more processing power.
Yeah.
There you go. So it is what it is. But I mean, the Amiga graphics are totally fine.
Mm-hmm. Sure,
they're
absolutely
totally fine.
And if you hadn't seen the PC version, you would think this looks the best it can look.
Well, I thought like if you compare this to say Syndicate, which by the way another dystopian sort of game, the graphics jump in that was considerable.
Oh yeah,
especially had those cool intros.
The jump in this is much more subtle.
Yeah, this is much more. It's just like it's better.
It's more
sharper.
colors. Yeah.
But I didn't see anything particularly awesome. All that said, what did you think of this? I mean, are you going to give this the thumbs up? And where does this rank in your pantheon when you do the when you do the Boat Plays Amiga point and click series? How's this going to rank?
This is up near the top. I mean, I preferred
Really?
I preferred this to Cruise for a Corpse. Although Cruise for a Corpse was more inventive, I enjoyed this sort of game more. This is nowhere near as good as the LucasArts games, just because I like everything about the LucasArts games appeals to me as a person. But I think I prefer this to any of all the Sierra games that I've played, but I've not played a lot of the Space Quest or Police Quest games. So, but I think that this is is sort of this is one of the swan songs of the point and click adventure game on the Amiga, and I think that they left the genre on a high note.
I will say just a couple more things in closing. This game is very Eurocentric. This probably wouldn't play. In fact, the numbers I have here, when they talked about the sales figures on this thing, that it was reported that it was between 300,000 and 400,000 units by July of 2009, and the majority of those, it says, were from European countries. This game is very European.
Well, it's a Virgin game, so
right. I mean, that I could see, because you don't hear much about this game here.
Yeah, but it's funny because
this isn't as revered.
Oh no, not at all. I thought that the voice acting, again, it's a weird thing. In the chat, they were talking about, even though this game is set in Australia, no one has an Australian accent.
Yeah.
So I guess that died out in the apocalypse. Your main character has an American accent, and then a lot of the people that you come into contact with have various British accents. So.
I didn't like the voices. In fact, I turned down the voice as I was watching. It's funny, sometimes I really want the voices, but in this one, I guess because I'd played it a bunch, I'd already come up with the voices in my head. And so
I couldn't get the biggest, and I'll tell you, this is on the honest truth. I hate the fact that they capitalize random words in these sentences. That got under my skin like nothing else. And I was reading online, and I guess they wanted to sort of mimic the comic book convention of doing that. But to me, it's just like, we need to expect the planet. I mean, I heard that in my head, and when I listen to the voices, I can ignore it, and so I wish that they would release a hack that took that out, because that's no good.
You're a grammar snob, clearly. I don't give a crap. As long as I can read what they're saying, I don't mind. But I think if you're going to look, even if you just watch this game, it is definitely worth a look just to see the beautiful backgrounds. And you really, I mean, it's going to be hard to sit down and just watch some of this to get the whole story. But if you really sit down, or if they were novelized, I mean, it'd be, you could actually, the story is pretty interesting. You mentioned Cruise to the Corpse on here. I think, this is a better game than Cruise for a Corpse, but I think Cruise for a Corpse or something like, It Came from the Desert, which these games were far more gutsy than this. This is not a gutsy game.
No.
It walks the well-trodden path, all right, which it's okay.
Right.
But it is what it is now. Clearly, we're in a minority here because I've got a little list here of how it did when it was released. It won the 95 PC Gamer Best Dialogue Award, and the dialogue is funny. There's no doubt about that. It got me and Brent, our favorite award, the Golden Joystick. It won that for Best Adventure.
Not the Arky?
No, that's our other favorite. It was number 1 in the British Gallup charts, which I guess that means something good. It got good reviews. We should probably go ahead and look at some of the reviews here. The folks over at Lemon, now I looked at this for both versions, and they're actually pretty similar. The ECS version, they gave an 8.52, and the CD32, they gave an 8.61. And I saw across the board, they're pretty similar. On the original disc version, Amiga Computer gave it an 85, Amiga Format gave it a 94, Amiga Power gave it an 86, 80s and 90s, and the CD version, this again, we've mocked this game magazine before, Amiga CD32 Gamer, which they at least got the issue 7. We know that. They gave it a 90. I would have given this a 200 if I was them. 200%. Run out and buy this immediately and buy 6 CD32s now.
And buy all our back issues.
Yeah. Amiga Format gave the CD32 version 86. Amiga Power gave it a 90. And CU Amiga gave 95. So,
I mean, absolutely. I agree with all. This is an A game for me. It's an A.
Yeah.
It doesn't tread any new ground, but it takes all of the conventions of a well-established genre and does what it can with them. Duncan asked about where does this stand against the Flight of the Amazon Queen. It doesn't stand anywhere close to Flight of the Amazon Queen.
Well, I mean,
the game itself is like if you strip away the story and the art and everything, I mean it's essentially the same game, but
same type.
Yeah. But Flight of the Amazon Queen, personally, I think I would prefer to look at a lush jungle environment than a decaying urban cityscape for hours and hours on end. Plus the scenes, even beyond that. Almost every scene in Flight of the Amazon Queen had some sort of animation, where there was a waterfall and you saw, sparkling fish jumping up and down. A lot of these screens are just static screens.
Well, most of them have something. I think this is a prettier game. I'll be honest with you. I think let me rephrase that. This is a more well-drawn game, I think. Flight of the Amazon Queen is certainly more colorful, but that's just the genre.
Sure.
The genre for Flight of the Amazon Queen is more fun, filling, and I mean, when you're wacky in that game, you're fighting a monkey or whatever.
Yeah.
You expect wackiness. In a game like this, I expected less wackiness, to be honest with you. We got a couple user reviews, Boat, here. We've got a couple people chimed in, if you'll allow me the courtesy. Lob Sterminator, our good buddy. He said, an excellent dystopian adventure game, beautiful graphics, interesting world and characters. The humor and wordplay are unmistakably British. That's true. The choice of setting is unique and brave. Only real critique is that the dialogue uses too many caps as emphasis. Like, he wrote it like that. Love it, 9 out of 10. And our other good buddy, Free Lunch, which I think he's here with us. I have always really wanted to love Beyond Beneath the Steel Sky. Sadly, I just never have. Adventure games are my jam, but this one hits too many sour notes. I think if it had played it when it first released, I may have really enjoyed it. I tried several times and quickly became bored. Pushing forward by determination only, the humor falls a little flat and the puzzles feel too facile. Mostly, like I've been given busy work to complete. That's true. That is true. You do feel like you're just trudging along. It does feel like busy work. I agree with that. Sacrilege, I know. I'll surrender my membership card to the man at the door. Great title, though, from a literary perspective. Yeah. 5 out of 10.
Beneath the Steel Sky is a great name for a game.
It is. Now, we should probably mention on our outro here that they have said that there will be a sequel. In fact, I think it was announced in March of this year.
Beyond a Steel Sky.
That's right. Now, I have heard early review looks at this game say that it did a lot different. Now, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play.
It's going to be a battle royale. Man.
One would wonder what they have in mind. Now, this story absolutely can lead to a sequel. There's no doubt, because the game ends with closure, but there's a whole world.
I mean, you could tell any number of stories in this world.
Yeah. So, but overall, I saw what they tried to do. It's funny. Usually, I just don't like these games because I just don't like them. But this one, I feel like I've got an actual critique here, which is I didn't like mixing the funny with the dystopia. I'd like to have something that is more serious.
Okay, so, that's fair. That's fair. Aaron, last week we had some winners from the Patreon Song Challenge. Right. Okay, I want to congratulate all of you for recognizing the tune and writing in. We've got Sweden's own Barkbit, Pixels at Dawn, Pack Billy, Gary Heather, Matthew Perron, Stephen Faust wrote in. Haven't heard from him before. Jan Holbro, whose son is a stand-up comedian. Did you see that?
I saw that. Oh man, I can't wait to see the little show.
Yeah.
That looked like a real deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Outstanding. Good luck, pal. Yeah.
And Edvin Helland.
The one and only.
Norway's finest.
Man, everyone got that song. What was it? You want to tell us?
Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi.
When you went way up there, that was a dead
You felt something in your soul.
No, in my belly. Like I was going to retch. Yeah, that's what I felt like.
I do want to welcome a new supporter this week.
Ooh.
Cap'n Crispy has joined us.
Good.
Cap'n Crispy. He's on board.
Good. Hopefully he will ship us a box of his cereal.
Yeah.
He's got to have one with that name.
Yeah. You know the significance of Captain Crunch
Absolutely.
in the hacker space?
Are you kidding me? His whistle could activate. And by the way, if there's a speaking of our buddies, Dan Ravi over at RetroHard did a great interview with him. It's definitely my all-time favorite episode of that show. And this guy is a brilliant to listen to.
Yeah.
So
If you haven't heard that,
it's really good.
Yeah. All right. If you know this week's Patreon song, then send me a message at john@amigospodcast.com. We want to thank all of our supporters in this special way.
You look like the tortoise coming out of the shell right there.
That's what I'm doing. It's like the Turtles live tour.
It looks like your skull knows what's coming. It's trying to escape your body.
Cap'n Crispy, kilobytes and caffeine. Mike W, Decker 3-Port, Gary Heather free lunch. Kate Fox, David Pickford, Cameron Armstrong, Andy Jones, Lobsterminator. Craig McClellan, 10-minute Amiga, Retrocast, Rounding Virtual Sheep, Bert Narquin in Retro Man Cave, Tim Drew, Simon Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Edit, Rob O'Hara, Howard Nibbs, Matthew Larimore, Andy Craig, Shanzo, Darren Lomax, calling 419, Bachbid, Roland Burke, Andrew Monks, Joe the Zombie, John Cook, Leaf Galan, Alan Kebab, Chico Telebolo, John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Ricky DeRoche, Creepy Dead Boy, Big C.T. The Slow Nose, Stefan Gun, Sword Garden Mortensen, Edvin Saladin, Blender 75, Christopher Hassel, Rafi Babbitt, Chris Folds, Dreamcatcher, Lauren Giroux, Cram Webkey, Lane Denson, Adam Batters, B. O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Gary Huckasey, Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Duncan Styles, Tapes from the Crypt, Josh Nan. Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim Tommy Humberstead, Daniel Bixton, Buddha Barra, Darren Coles, Jason Gorns, Pixels at Dawn, and Kilbjorn Barman.
The Gritcher nailed it. It's like a musical stroke. That's exactly correct.
Stroke of genius.
Never has anything been summed up so perfectly in my life. I got that. I got that one.
Good.
So I'm proud of myself.
Aaron,
I think.
Next week, it's going to be one of the greatest weeks of your life.
Oh, yeah?
If not the greatest.
Every week it gets a little better.
We're going to play Panza Kickboxing.
Oh! Finally! Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
How many episodes we've been waiting for this?
I love it. I can't believe it's never been covered by us.
I know.
Man, I'm going to beat you like a dog.
Well, we'll see about that.
Man.
I have been training.
Hot dog. I love it.
All right. We want to thank all the fine folks with us in YouTube land that are watching us live right now.
We had a good crowd today.
Absolutely. Pixels at Dawn, Panthro Strife.
Oh, what a cool name.
Ricky DeRocher, Retro Man Cave, Neville Overman from Beneath the Steel Sky, Duncan Styles, Free Lunch, John Mullins. Did I say Edmund already? I think I did.
You can say Panthro's name again.
I'll say it a couple more times.
Strife.
Free Lunch was with us. Terror K. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. It's always a party in the chat. Picard 2005, Wishbone, Jan Holbro Rasmussen is here.
Man.
He's back from stand-up comedy land. Free Lunch. Thank you guys so much. We will see you guys next week. Until then, keep them playing the Amiga. Adios.
Oh boy.
Oops.